Welcome to the Elevate Your Leadership podcast series with U.S. Navy Special Operations veteran, CEO, and hockey fanatic Bob Pizzini. Bob discusses leadership, success, failure, defining moments, and hard lessons learned with guests who are intentional in their approach to leadership. Leadership is a perishable skill. Use it or lose it. In this series, entrepreneurs, industry executives, academics, public figures, and other highly effective professionals share their formulas for success with you.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Elevate Your Leadership podcast with me, your host, Bob Pizzini. If you've listened to the show before, you know that I love to have discussions with people who have brought great value to me and my organization. And through the discussion we're about to have, I know that these people will bring great value to you and your organization. Now, you would think that I would get my former teammates on this podcast all the time, but that really doesn't happen. So today's guest, a total treat, Nap DeSchutis, Napoleon DeSchutis, he goes by Nap, retired EOD, former teammate, friend of mine, incredible guy, and he's in town for a wedding. And we took advantage of this opportunity to have an incredible discussion. Let me just tell you a little bit about Nap before we formally introduce him and start the discussion. So Napoleon Nap DeSchutis is the president of ECF Gov, a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business and advanced hydrofoil boat manufacturer supplying boats to federal, state, and municipal agencies. He founded Emerald Kush Farms, a CBD extraction company as well. Nap retired as an EOD, that's explosive ordnance disposal, a bomb tech, right? Cut the red wire, cut the blue wire. Nap retired as an EOD Master Chief from the U.S. Navy in 2020, the year of COVID, after a 24-year career in special operations. He excelled in many roles, including serving as leading chief in Specialized Diving Division, Naval Diving and Salvage Training Center, Panama City Beach, Florida, where I served in that same role many years earlier. We'll have to talk about that. And he was the Navy Mine Countermeasure leading chief for 7th Fleet Waterborne Mine Response in the Western Pacific Theater and EOD Program Manager for the Center for EOD and Diving, also in Panama City Beach, Florida. His extensive operational experience includes deployments throughout Asia, as well as multiple combat deployments to Iraq. His personal decorations include the Bronze Star. Nap's leadership is grounded in a strong academic foundation with a Bachelor of Science in Organizational Leadership from the University of Charleston, West Virginia, and I definitely want to talk about that. His career has taken him to diverse locations worldwide, where he has accumulated a wealth of experience that now drives his strategic vision at ecf.gov. His background in Navy explosive ordnance disposal and his deep understanding of operational excellence informs his approach to leadership and product development, ensuring that ecf.gov remains at the forefront of the industry. Nap, welcome to the Elevate Your Leadership podcast.
I appreciate that. Those are kind words at the beginning. Very flowery, thank you.
No, just reading the truth. I mean, you know, you have I read not even half of what you've really done. But you know, as we were talking about earlier, and what I like to do with every guest I have on the show, first of all, I only have guests by invitation. And as I said in the opening, I only want to share people with you, the listeners, who have brought value to me and who have done incredible things in their life. And you and I share a brotherhood that's, you know, just really unique. But it all starts in our childhood. Mm-hmm. You know, the seeds of leadership, the foundation of who we are as adults starts as a kid. Where did you grow up?
So I had a diverse childhood, I guess. I was born in California, in San Pedro, Los Angeles area. And my whole family were medical, but my dad did not want to be part of that box, right? So he was was doing electricity up in he was an electrician in Santa Barbara for a little bit, and then also in the wintertime was a ski patrolman in Mammoth Lakes. So we lived between there until I was about 4 years old, in between Santa Barbara and Mammoth Lakes, and then we moved to Canada. My mom's Canadian.
Wow.
And so I grew up in Saskatchewan, Canada, from the time I was about 4 years old till I was 14. in a little farm community, and I grew up a poor farm kid, man.
No kidding. So I don't sense any Canadian accent whatsoever.
No.
Okay.
I think, well, my dad's from the Bronx, and then my mom has a Canadian accent, but I think I didn't have that Canadian accent.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So did you play hockey as a kid?
I did. I grew up playing hockey, man. Probably till the 12th grade.
Okay.
And
yeah, right through high school.
yeah, it just it started to hurt. I'm only 5'6", and back then I think I graduated boot camp at 118 pounds, so I was tiny. I was a tiny 5'6", and it hurt, man, especially when you got all those goons just looking for you on ice, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So who's your NHL team?
Man, to be honest, I lost track of sports when I went over to Guam.
Okay.
Because we're so far out. It was just Then when I came back to the States, there's expansion teams. There was extra players.
Went from 16 to 32. Right.
Right. And I had no time to play catch up on who's who in the shoe, so I kind of just gave up on sports, man. But back in the day. Actually, I grew up with a guy named Curtis Brown. He played for the Sabres, Buffalo Sabres, and then went over to the San Jose Sharks. And then when the NHL went on strike for those couple of years, he went over to Europe and played over there and stuff like that. So I was a big I love the Oilers, man. I love the Oilers up until Pocklington got rid of Gretzky, and then I was like, F the Oilers, man. So. But that was that's back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
So,
any other sports as a kid?
No, not really at all. It's Canada. So it was
that's all you do.
Farmland Canada. It was hockey or nothing, man.
I get it. What about first job, high school job, or?
I did. I was 14. I was working at the local cafe in town as a fry cook.
Okay.
And so. I did that on the weekends and in the summer, and then when I was 16, I started welding for one of my dad's buddies, and that's actually where I made the decision that the lifestyle that I was in I didn't want, and it was tough growing up. I think we had four of us, and it was there's 4 kids. I had a brother that passed in a car accident earlier on, and so we had 5, went to 4, and it was just it was a tough life growing up, and I think that we had a lot of struggle, but it made us who we were, I didn't belong in that town. I showed up as an outsider, and when you show up as an outsider, then automatically, you're ostracized, especially in small town Saskatchewan, right? And so, there's a lot of I guess when you're like the black sheep of the town or whatever, like the family was, right? Like we were just not the right. We didn't belong there. Right?
Yeah,
we're the outsiders, and so that trickled on through school. You know what I mean? And then into high school, I started welding, and I really liked welding a lot. But then got to a point I was 18, and I was welding on the oil rigs. And we were doing,
where, in the Gulf or Canada?
It was in Canada.
Okay.
In Saskatchewan, and we're doing these complete enclosures on these storage tanks, and in the wintertime they burn H2S gas through the tanks to heat up the oil so they can pump it, and but H2S gas pits the heck out of steel, and so they would clean the whole tank out. Steam truck it, back truck it, and then we would go in with pre-curved sheets of steel and do complete enclosures on the whole thing. And we just come out just filthy and nasty and cold to the bone. I remember coming home and like just sitting in the bathtub, still cold, going to bed cold, and waking up still cold. And
wow,
F this, man.
Yeah.
And so I joined the Navy.
Okay. At what age?
I was 18.
No kidding.
Yeah, I was 18, and I was like, I had enough, and it was time for me to get out of the house too. It was it was just rough growing up in that area, to be honest. And
when you joined, did you know what you wanted to do at that time?
Not at all. I just knew I needed to get out of there.
Okay. Because HT, that's Hull Tech, that's a welding rate in the Navy.
No, I
actually, chasers is what we call them.
Right. So I had I'd taken the ASVAB down. I'd gone back down to California to visit family, and decided I was going to join the Navy down there. So took the ASVAB, and then they wanted to push me into the nuke rate, but I was a dual citizen. And so they couldn't. So I went into, at that point, they were flooding the advanced electronics rates. And so I went in as an FC, as a fire controlman.
You got to have a big brain for that. I've been to that school.
And so I was a CWIS tech for 6 years.
Wow.
I did 2 ships.
So CWIS, for the listeners, that's the phalanx. That's the R2-D2 looking gun that you see on a lot of Navy ships that fires, 3,000 rounds per minute?
The old ones didn't. The new one, the Manica, I think, was 4,500 rounds.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
What a great system. And so it was great because I got I was a well-rounded FC. I was able to do the electronics and the gun system and the coolant system and the pneumatic system. And there's all those, from microelectronics to 50,000 volt klystron.
Yeah. Crazy the stuff you learn and the skills and the knowledge.
Yeah, and we were young. We were kids, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
21-year-olds. Here's this insane weapon system.
Yeah. No, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I remember going to those schools and I couldn't believe the stuff I was learning. Stuff that I couldn't even comprehend. That I've long since forgotten. I couldn't even comprehend it now. All the nuance of electricity and electronics.
Right. Does that come back to you every once in a while where you're like, oh, I just remember this crap? And
not like to the point of picofarads or picofarads, but Ohm's law. I mean, that's
someone we were having a meeting with and someone brought up it was a NAND. Someone brought up a NAND gate, and I'm like, I don't remember that, right? And I was like, but they brought it up in the way that they were just talking normally.
Yeah.
But it was like, I was like, oh crap, I remember that.
Yeah, AND gates and OR gates.
Yeah, AND gates, NAND gates, OR gates, NOR gates, like all that stuff, like
crazy. So how long were you in the Navy before you decided to go to EOD, and how did you discover EOD?
Oh, that's it. It was so. It was really fortuitous, man. I had come up for orders as a fire controlman, and there was no room for us at shore duty because they had flooded our rates. And so it was, my detailer said that I could go push boots up at Great Lakes, Illinois, and I left the cold to go to Great Lakes, Illinois for 2 years. Like the Navy got me already, and I'm like, I'm never going back to Great Lakes.
Yeah. So I grew up in Kenosha, Wisconsin, by the way, just right there. So
100% understand.
Yeah, so I know that cold. And when he says pushing boots, he's talking about being a boot camp company commander.
Yep.
Where Navy boot camp is at Great Lakes.
Right. And, sorry, I'll translate a little better.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to do that, and he said I could go recruiting in San Diego, or I could get out. Those are my options.
Wow.
And I really wanted to go be an instructor. I loved the system I worked on. I loved the closing weapon system. It was amazing, right?
That's all in Great Lakes too, though, right?
And no, that was San Diego.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And so I wanted to go be a CWIS instructor, and he said no. So I asked if I could go recruiting in San Diego, and he goes, I don't care where you go. And he handed me over to the special programs detailer, and then I went recruiting. And it was miserable. It was like working for a used car salesman. I hated it.
Yeah.
And kids would come in the office, and I'd be like, are you ready to join the Navy? And they'd say, nope. And I'd be like, well, you can get out then. And they're like, aren't you supposed to sell me something? And I was like, no, the Army will sell you whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
Like, just go talk to them, and they'll tell you whatever you need to hear.
Yeah.
I was like, but if you want to join the Navy, and come talk to me, man. But I'm not here to sell it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was there to sell it, and I got yelled at so much just because I wasn't
hitting the numbers.
I didn't hit the numbers. I wasn't,
Yeah.
But it was just excruciating for me. It wasn't who I was.
Yeah. Right.
And so 2 years in, I was kicking the can down the street, and one of my buddies off my first ship, he was a IDC or he was a DMT at the point. At that time, he was at NSCT-1, Naval Special Clearance Team 1, in San Diego. And him and his wife had come over, and she was on my first ship also. And this will actually segue into later on in the story. Both of them, Cam and Darcy. So Cam came over, and I was talking to him. I was like, man, I hate recruiting. Like, it is miserable. He goes, why don't you go EOD? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And so I went and hit up EOD Mobile Unit 3. There's a guy named Russ Albers. And Russ, if you're listening, thank you.
Yeah, right. We all owe thanks.
And he was the second class at the time. I was the first class at the time. I was a FC1.
What year?
This was 2003. I started doing that.
Okay.
And so I hit up Russ Albers. I went in and took the test. Took the screening test.
Yeah.
My swim
PT screening test. So sit-ups, push-ups, pull-ups, a run, and a swim.
Yeah. My swim was at 15 minutes. They told me to get out of the pool. I said, no, I'm going to finish it. And I finished, and I'd already failed, right? And so I couldn't get the pull-ups. The run, I came in late, and
holy cow,
it was
man.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't swim with the crap, to be honest. And so they told me this was 2003 that happened. It was very early 2003. And then I was so embarrassed, man. I went and got total immersion. I got total immersion, and I retaught myself how to swim a lot better. And then I came back 4 months later and passed the test. Cool. And at that point, I was a senior first class, and they were not taking. I had convinced my skipper at recruiting district to gap my billet. And he was like, don't you ever use professional selling skills on me again? And I was like, I won't. Yeah. And then EOD at that time was closing down their recruiting to second class and below. Right. Fleet returnees. They were taking first classes. And I can't remember who the ECM was at the time. But I do remember it was Bob
Dawkins?
It was Bob Dawkins.
Yeah.
And
Dr. Bob Dawkins, by the way.
Right. And so I said, hey, I'm putting in my package. He goes, well, we're not taking first classes anymore. He goes, we're about to release the message. And I said, well, you haven't released the message yet. And he goes, damn it, man. He goes, hit send on the fax. And so I sent it. He goes, I've got it. And he goes, you're the last one. Wow. That's what he said. I remember Bob saying that. He said,
it's a big deal, man.
He goes, you're the last one. And I wasn't. Because there's another first class when I went to dive school with me that we ended up both making chief in EOD school. Okay. Yeah. And so, but I was able to at least squeak in the door at the last minute and get EOD. And I remember, was it Gator Franklin? It might have been Gator, man, who had said, he goes, you're going to be behind. And I said, it was behind my career, right? Because
are you recruiting on the West Coast?
Yeah, he was one of the CMCs out there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so
he was actually, I think, training unit 1 at that time.
Or he might have been mobile unit 7. Okay, I think he was a CMC mobile unit 7. Okay, at that point, but he had he goes, you're going to be really behind in your career. Joining as a first class, now you're going to be up against third classes who have more experience than you, right? For sure. So I said, I understand that, but if you were in my shoes, would you do this? And he goes, every day. That's right. And I was like, well, that's all I need then, man. So yeah, I went to EOD, and it was the most amazing career I could possibly ask for. For sure. Yeah.
So edit that out, please, Dex. So, 2003 EOD school. When did you graduate school?
So I went to school in late 2004. Okay. It was December. We came out.
Oh, wow.
Panama City Beach, and then we started class. We classed up in like January 3rd. Okay. Whatever the date was.
So graduated late 2005, early 06.
I graduated EOD school December 05. Okay. And then showed up to Mobile Unit 3 in 06, and then deployed right to Iraq in 06.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Sober 06. Yeah.
2006. That's when I was just leaving. I was OIC of Det Banger up in Silverdale, Washington. In 2006, we transferred from there to the training unit here on the East Coast. Yep. The training unit 2. So 06, you go to Mobile Unit 3. You go to Iraq. Mm-hmm. How many deployments in Iraq?
We did 2. I did 2 to Iraq, and then I after that did a battalion deployment with Mobile 11. Yeah. To Bahrain after that. So I did 3 back-to-back deployments. Yeah.
Did you do for that battalion deployment? Did you guys go do like a headquarters training somewhere?
Yeah, we were up in Washington.
Yeah.
We were in Washington for it, and actually, we were up during that, and it was Eric Worstrom was the CEO.
Okay. Was Frampton the CMC?
Yeah, Frampton was not Mobile Unit 3 CMC at that point.
Okay. All right.
Eric Frampton it wasn't Gator, it was Eric Frampton.
Okay.
It was the CMC when he was the CMC at 3. That's who told me. He goes, every day he was at work.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's a good buddy of mine. Our families are pretty close.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric. Man, I'm sorry I didn't do that. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. So Iraqi deployment, first one was what year? 2000?
First one was 2006. Went over in 06. Okay. And we were there with the Mobile 11 guys. And
where were you?
We started off in I started off in Braswell Mora down in Samara.
Okay.
And then halfway through deployment, we did a swap out, an involuntary swap out, and so I ended up at Spiker.
Okay.
Pressed that up into Grid area.
Okay.
So we kind of split it up half and half, and
that's when things were really starting to heat up too.
It was
pre-surge, but it was
it was. I think at that point they were doing 3,000 IEDs a month.
Wow.
MNI was doing 3,000.
Multinational
Core Iraq, MNCI was
Okay.
Multinational Core Iraq was doing all the EOD techs were doing. I think it was 3,000 IEDs a month.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and so it was exhausting, man. That was the year Greg and the boys died.
Yeah.
And then right after that was Pat and Jeff, and then right after that was Kevin. It was back to back.
Yeah. We lost a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but we lost a significant number of teammates in a very short period of time.
Devastating. And,
definitely.
And so I think that, when you look at pictures of all of us, before we went to Iraq and then you come back, man, we're exhausted.
Yeah.
You can see the absolute just exhaustion. And, and then you come back and then they just tell you to rejock, you're ready to go again because you're at the standby debt. You're fepped out. You're ready to go.
When you see that exhaustion, do you think some of that is PTSD or something other than just physical exhaustion?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I think there's a loss of probably what you hoped this job entailed wasn't everything that you thought about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's the everyone wants to get in a firefight until they get in a firefight.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
You're like, that's good. I'm good with that one.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it's not, it's not you running over the berm with a freaking American flag being like, for the country, right? It's like, bro, let's get out of this situation.
Right.
Either forward or back,
Yeah.
And
my buddy Jimmy Hinsky says that if you have anything above a Bronze Star, you didn't want to be wherever you were to get it, like you were in some stuff that you would rather have not have 100% with.
But then at the other, on the other coin, right, you can't go back and change it. So you have to look at that and say, you know what, that made me something, right, that I can either dwell on or I can build upon. Right?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think all those, for instances, that if the guys would just take a quick pause, right, they didn't choose to be in that situation. It just happened, right?
Yeah.
Life's just going to happen no matter what, right? And so if they could just take that quick pause and like nothing that they were in that situation is their fault. It's just they were there.
Yeah.
And it's okay,
Yeah.
And so I think that's a lot of the problems the guys have when they come back is that it's tough to accept the fact that happened in your life.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, right?
Yeah. And then, and I've talked to so many people, and of course I've experienced Iraq myself, but there's hypervigilance. There's this stoic approach, because when we come back, people who are getting ready to go that haven't been there, whether you're officially training them or you're just a source of knowledge, they really want to talk to you and understand what it's like and what to expect. And so you have to be stoic for them as well. You have to be a good teammate and a good leader. And all that is exhausting, man. Every single bit of that takes it out of you.
Well, I think it boils down to being true to yourself, right? And there's a great book that I read a long time ago. It changed my life. It saved my life, to be honest. It's called The Four Agreements. It's by Don Miguel Ruiz. Excuse me.
The Four Agreements.
Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Yep.
Okay. Why did that book save your life?
It really was. It was a turning point of who I was as a person. It was my burn down, man. I was at that point in my life where everything was done. I was exhausted. It had just come to a head. I had another failed marriage. It was exhausting. Life was exhausting, right? And so I had burned down to the bottom of the ground, and I read this book. On the way up to Montana, and I was going to disappear in Montana.
Wow.
No one was going to find me.
Okay.
And on the way up, I started listening to this book.
You were like on leave, and you were just gonna.
I was just going to disappear.
You were just going to disappear.
Actually, no. I just left my marriage.
Oh, okay.
I left my marriage. I was in my truck. I'm like, nah, that's good enough. We're out. Yeah, I'll just call it that. And then maybe they'll just never find me, and insurance will pay out and all the rest, right? And so this book, man, was really just started off with being true to yourself. And I looked inside my mirror while I was driving, and I was like, you're an effing liar. I just told myself that. I'd lied to myself about everything, man. Just the little things, right? Like, for instance, when one of my ex-wives was like, we should get married, right? In my head, I was like, no, we shouldn't, right? But I was like, I didn't want her to feel sad. And I put my happiness behind everyone else's for years. I'd never, after all these years of being an EOD tech, right, the one guy I never stood up for was me.
Yeah.
And so finally I had to just come to terms that I wasn't happy with who I was as a person, and it was time to burn myself down and come back out of the ashes, and I had to do that.
And this book opened your eyes to that?
Absolutely. I've probably read that thing 30 plus times by now.
What's the title again? The Four
Agreements. Yeah. It is, man. It will absolutely. And if you like audiobooks, it's an easy 2-hour listen.
Okay.
At 1.4.
All right. Like mental health and wellness?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been on the New York bestsellers list for years.
Really? Yeah. When was it written, roughly?
It was back in the 90s, I believe, early 2000s.
Okay. Okay. So before war, it wasn't written for soldiers, and
not at all. Okay. No, it was man, I'd be lying if I gave you the exact date.
Yeah.
There's been a couple really influential books in my life, man, that have changed my whole, changed me as a human being.
Yes.
Completely changed me as a person.
Yeah.
That one, another one by James Allen called As a Man Thinketh. That was written in like 1909.
Wow. So what year was this when you were on your way to Montana?
2021.
Okay, so after you retired.
Yep.
Okay.
I was going through it was all at the same time. It was a failed marriage. It was I lost my purpose. I was an EOD Master Chief, I was just an EOD tech.
That's the highest senior enlisted rank, by the way, EOD Master Chief.
Regardless of the rank, man, I was an EOD tech, man. I was a rock star we were rock stars in our communities, right? And so, to lose that purpose, where you're like, man, I used to do all these things.
Yeah.
Now I'm a project manager for construction.
Yeah, right. Man, it happens to so many dudes who get that loss of purpose.
Complete loss.
Did you do the Honor Foundation?
I did not do the Honor Foundation when I got out, no.
Did you do NICO?
I didn't. I went through 7th Group's TBI clinic there. So I went through all that.
Okay.
It is very similar to NICO.
Okay. So for the listeners, once again, so we have some transition programs and special operations. So the Honor Foundation is one of them. The executive director of the Honor Foundation here on the East Coast is a retired SEAL captain by the name of Matt Stevens, friend of mine. And the Honor Foundation is this incredible transition program, really to help guys like you not go through what you went through. Right? They reestablish your sense of purpose. They help you transition all your military skill sets to private sector, really leadership and execution and stuff that we're great at.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned NICO, so National Intrepid Center of Excellence up in Bethesda, Maryland. And that's really all about mental health more than anything else. And I went through the veteran version of that out at the Marcus Institute of Brain Health in Aurora, Colorado. By the way, Bernie Marcus, one of the founders of Home Depot, died last week. He was in his late 90s, if I'm not mistaken. And he gave the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Center about $35 million to put together this program to treat veterans with PTSD, TBI. And it was a 4-week program that I went to, and that changed my life. So just really incredible. But
I love that. Are they still, is it during the transition, or is it like you still go through?
Yeah, no, anytime as a veteran, and I will share that info with you. That was, and part 2 of my book is really all about what I learned there.
Yeah.
Because it's all about mental health. It's physical health and wellness as well, but it's all stuff we should have learned in 5th grade.
It is.
And yeah.
To be honest, man, I think when you look back at it in their childhoods and stuff, is that our parents were raised by a generation of super tough people.
Yeah.
I mean, 30s and
baby boomers,
and those people who were just tough. Yeah. And so we were raised in the same way of like, you don't cry in public, right? Keep your chin up, suck it in, man. And so later on when guys get angry and fight and all the rest of that, that's just really guys crying, man, because I got taught we're not allowed to share emotions.
Yeah.
And so,
I've never heard it put that way. That's a good way to put it.
it is, man. When guys are angry and stuff, that's really guys crying.
Yeah.
When they're beating the crap out of something, that is a man crying because he's not allowed to cry.
Yeah. Wow.
And so, man, like I teach my kids that I drag my kids in front of the mirror every morning. I tell them to make sure they tell themselves they love themselves every morning, and that it's okay. That, man, if they need to cry, let that out, because I would rather them cry than ever raise a hand in anger on anything, you know?
Yeah.
And so,
wow.
Yeah, like.
So you went to Montana. So this is 2020 after you retired. You know what? Let's come back to Montana in just a second, because I want to go back to your time at dive school.
Yeah.
So did you go from Mobile Unit 3? Did you go over to the dive school?
No, I went from Mobile Unit 3. I went to CEOD.
Yeah. Also Panama City.
It's right in the same building as dive school. So,
yeah.
I was there as the N7 as a program manager for EOD.
Okay.
And did curriculum development.
Yeah.
And when the Army just was like, hey, we need to take this out of the curriculum, and you're like, well, I'll just hold weight or whatever, right? So,
yeah.
So a lot of that, and then
from there over to dive school.
Yeah. No. Then I went to Mobile Unit 5.
Oh, wow. Okay, Guam. That's right, Mobile Unit 5 in Guam, which I spent 5 years out there.
I loved it, man. It was the best time ever. We had such an amazing time. It was a rock star group. There's Billy Fancher, Jeff Schultz.
Yeah,
name drop. Right?
Chelsea. It was put Chelsea through dive school.
It was an amazing time. We took over the island of Saipan. We took over Saipan, made it a training ground for everyone.
Yeah,
where the guys as they went through training in Guam, they would just game it. There's only so many places in Guam you can go set up the same drill at, right?
For sure.
And so they're like, oh, if I know around this corner, you can only put this, right?
Yeah.
And so,
we did
one. We spent probably it's $120,000, $150,000 to just swipe the credit card up in Saipan.
Yeah.
And we basically took. There's a bunch of old CIA complexes up there, and we schmoozed the local government enough that that they were like, yeah, you can use anything here. They had an abandoned shopping mall. So when all the textile factories shut down in Saipan, that's when the economy tanked.
Right.
The shopping mall, La Fiesta shopping mall, and all the hotels and so they all went up.
Oh, no kidding! Those vacation clubs and everything
all went tits up, man.
Wow.
So they basically were just sitting there empty, and we're like training.
Sure. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Right when the guys were ready to FEP out, where he said, you have 36 hours, here's your mission set.
Yeah.
Get ready to go to Saipan. And they're like, crap, we've never been there. We don't know, And that was their thing, like, get ready for your mission.
So FEP, final evaluation.
Yeah. And so we take them up to Saipan, and we do rappelling into hotels. In the old shopping mall, we had hostage situation. It was great.
Yeah,
they had an old prison there that still had power to it and everything. So
wow,
we got to run drills through that, land helos inside the prison yard and all that.
Cool. Did you guys make it over to Tinian as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Tinian's super cool. Got to see where the Enola Gay took on.
Yeah, the bomb pits where they loaded the Fat Man. In the Enola Gay.
It was too big to put onto the things. They had to dig a
pit in the runway where the airplane pulled over it and they uploaded it. Yeah, that's incredible. And then the Japanese bunkers, and just it's a World War II museum, basically. Really Saipan and Tinian.
Where they say Amelia Earhart was held on Saipan.
Yeah.
Prison cell there.
Yeah. So that's cool. Yeah, so Mobile 5, Guam, incredible tour out there. I've got some pictures. You can't see it on camera, but so like the Buddha, the Golden Buddha, we did air ops in Thailand like you would not believe. So, yeah, it was just so cool. So you did Guam, then back to dive school as an instructor.
Yep. Yeah, I went back there as an instructor, and I almost got my full 3 years there, and then I got hit by a car in 2019.
In Panama City?
In Panama City, yeah. I was sitting at a traffic light. And,
were you a Master Chief at the time?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Wow.
I just put it on. I got clocked. This dude hit me with a H2 Hummer doing 45 miles an hour from behind. And I was stopped at a stoplight and just hit my truck from behind. And
wow,
and like everything, that brought me back to Iraq. It was like the truck getting hit. It was just everything exploded, everything opened up, stuff flying everywhere, and And I looked back, and there was just this old dude in a H2 Hummer with his cell phone.
Wow.
I was like, and he just didn't know. He just hadn't slowed down, didn't even hit the brakes or nothing, man.
Wow.
Just hit me straight on. So, I ended up going to the ER and ended up having my neck fused, and then 3 back surgeries. I had initial back surgery, then it failed, and they airlifted me back a week later. I had a major spinal leak, and then they had to operate twice more on me to fix it. And
Do you have like lower back hardware?
no, it's actually it's all bone on bone. It's actually all 3 of them are all fused together now, and it's great. I had no pain whatsoever. I did a whole bunch of stem cell treatment afterwards.
Where'd you do that?
I did it through, and they don't do it anymore. It was through a company called Veterans in Pain. It was a nonprofit, Veterans in Pain.
And they don't do it anymore?
They don't do the stem cells. They got the FDA shut them down on it because they were doing.
They didn't just move it offshore somewhere or go to Panama or.
No. So it was a company out of Arizona called R3 Medical.
Okay.
And they're the ones who were doing it with Veterans in Pain, but then there's something that happened. It was a political thing that shut down. So, but man, I went in. I got stem cells done twice through them, and it was amazing. I had systemic through my whole body, IV.
Yeah. And then they did injection plus IV.
Correct.
Yeah. Wow.
It changed my life. It was amazing.
Dude, so I am on the precipice. I mean, I'm looking at another surgery, which I absolutely do not want.
Yeah.
And so these stem cells, but I have, and sorry to geek out here, listeners, for a quick second, but
Geek out.
I had L4, L5, S1 fusion, and everything was great for about 4 years.
Yeah.
But now L3 is narrow. And so, I have to get a pain management shot every 3 months, and it only lasts for a month. So
R3 Medical, hit them up. They still may do the thing, but the Veterans in Pain link with them isn't there anymore.
Okay.
I do know Veterans in Pain they have a bunch of other programs.
Yeah.
I think they do an ayahuasca one. They do some psychedelic. Like that.
Yeah, I'm looking at that as well. I mean, when you have chronic back pain, which I've had chronically now for probably 6 or 7 years.
From jumping out of planes and playing hockey.
Everything. It's a life of overuse, but
enjoyment.
Yeah. Hey, chasing the dream, man, chasing your passions. But I will do anything, man. I will, and stem cells and peptides, that stuff is really advanced and developed, and that's unfortunate. Like doctors in the U.S. have developed these highly advanced procedures, but they can't get FDA approval, so they open up clinics in Panama, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, Tijuana.
Yep.
There's one in Thailand. So
medical tourism is just absolutely.
Yeah.
My dad does medical tourism. He's like, why would I wait 6 months?
Yeah.
In Canada to get something done when I can just Mexico and get it done the next day.
Exactly right, dude. And I'll tell you something crazy. When I was in Thailand in probably 2003, 2004, something like that. First time I ever had Botox, it wasn't for vanity. It's because I had this constant headache. I had this constant thing right here on the right. I mean, I had it for 15 years.
Do you still get it?
No.
Yeah.
Dude, Botox made that go away.
Yeah, no. 100%.
So, yeah, unbelievable.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and this is in Thailand. I'm walking down the street. I go to a pharmacy in Thailand, and the pharmacy tech, What's
your favorite place in Thailand?
Oh, man. Different places for different reasons. Pattaya is kind of the hub, and so I know a lot of people there, and so I'm very comfortable, moving around in Pattaya.
Yeah.
But obviously Bangkok, the Royal Palace, to go see stuff like that. Chiang Mai up in the north, the elephant.
Yeah.
And then down in the south, Koh Samui, Koh Phi Phi, those beautiful islands where they make movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's yours?
We used to take the kids to Thailand because when we were in Guam, we flew United, and then I just burned the miles once a year. Took the family out, and so every year we always go to Phuket. They loved it, and the JW Marriott out there, and we burn all the points.
Yeah, exactly.
And hang out, and my kids are blonde hair, blue eyed, and so like they were just like rock stars there, right? Like every Thai lady's touching them.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's good luck, right? They're like. And so
that's funny.
Yeah, and
true. I mean, true.
It's 100%, man. It's good luck to touch that kid's head right there. Just like they could not keep their hands off the kids.
Yeah.
Just like, and so the kids felt like rock stars there, and the people are so kind and nice and wonderful.
Yeah.
And we love that. And it's really, that's in my bucket list, is go off the coast of all those islands and just hang out for a year or two.
That's cool. That's cool. We have, Mark Sanders.
Yeah.
Mark's one of my besties, and him and I actually did a lot of operating in Thailand together. He worked for the command task force, and I was the mobile unit. I was the operations officer at Mobile Unit 5.
Right.
And he would call up and say, Bob, make it as big as you want to make it, bring as many as you want to bring. Yeah. Like I talk about these air operations and these diving operations that we did, and we did all kinds of counterinsurgency and all the CT counterterrorism operations and stuff like that, so.
How do you think that helped you correlate over into like iFly now and all the rest of that?
Well, I'll tell you, man, that's an awesome question. I'm supposed to be asking you questions, but don't get me talking, because I can go until tomorrow. Yeah. But that's a very intuitive question, because when I was doing counterterrorism and all that stuff, and then I was in Europe for 3 years before that, I decided to get a graduate degree in national security and counterterrorism.
Right.
And the process of writing and researching, right, that you have to do to get a graduate degree, if I hadn't done that, I don't think I would have known how to research a business plan and put a business plan together to build a business that's north of $10 million.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, man, all that stuff directly impacted my ability to put this business together. But that goes back to the nature of EOD techs, man. We can learn complex things quickly. I wasn't the greatest high school student.
I don't think
none of us were.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was a C student. If it wasn't for math, I wouldn't have passed high school.
Wow, you were good at math.
That's all I was good at.
It's the only thing I sucked at.
Iambic pentameter means nothing to me. I could give two craps about it. I'm like, I will never speak an iambic pentameter. Like, who cares about Shakespeare?
Yeah.
And so and that, but that was 18-year-old me, or this is stupid, right?
Yeah.
I know everything, and this is stupid. And so, looking back at it now, like just the ability to sit down and enjoy books and history and all the rest of that. Maybe I found that again.
For sure, totally agree.
But the math part, man, 100%. That saved my ass so many times in Iraq, and EOD in general was all math. Nonstop.
Well, it's all math, and the thing is, like sitting in algebra class in high school, my head was bouncing off the desk. But then when I'm doing algebra to solve for mixing gases for a dive profile that's going to have a maximum depth of 250 feet,
because they're interested in it.
Now it all makes sense. Yeah. And so then that came easy, and I loved doing that.
Yeah.
And all the complexities of, nuclear theory and time
formulas.
Yeah, exactly. Time distance shielding and all the stuff, and then
the geeky stuff.
And then there's the P formula, right?
Right.
So P formula, by the way, is if you're not sure how much explosives to use in a particular situation, P equals plenty. So it means
plus more. P plus M.
P plus A. So love that stuff, man. Love it.
It really was. I think math was just it made sense. It was always a constant, right? But how many ways can you spell no? Like that, why would I, like, that's just ridiculous, man. 2 + 2 is always going to be 4, right?
Yeah.
And so it just made more sense where it was a given, it was a constant, and I enjoyed it. But it was, man, I think the struggle helped later on, especially in the business world. And
totally. That whole EOD career totally prepared me for business, prepared for you.
Agreed.
And we have so many, we were talking yesterday, we have so many friends, so many EOD techs who got out and started these incredible businesses.
I just had lunch with Jim Hilbert, man, and we were saying the exact same thing about EOD techs figuring out anything.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think a lot of the times is that the guys who aren't doing that, or they might still be having that struggle in here, like within themselves.
Yeah.
And they need to, because once you fix that struggle, man, the ability to grow and build things is, I've found, it doesn't stop.
No, that's for sure. But you're right about that struggle. And, I got lucky because it wasn't that bad for me, because I was going into a contracting company that was new and up and coming, and 3 responsible owners who were taking good care of me as I made my transition. and gave me the bandwidth to develop iFly and the business plan and all that, But again, it's still daunting, though, I mean, I'll never forget when I walked into my partner's boardroom, after a year of trying to get this thing put together, and I walked in, and there were a few key people there that weren't normally at these meetings, and they're like, let's get it done.
Yes.
And I was like, holy cow.
Yeah, I love that.
It's like, man, now, as hard as I've been working the last year, I've got a lot more work to do. It just got serious.
Right. Well, now it's like you got to put your money where your mouth is, right?
Exactly right. Yep. And that never stops.
No, and
I
find that is one of the things I really do enjoy in business, is that I will put something out there to people, and then now I have to hold myself to that. I'm like, shit, man, I just said that, right?
Yeah.
Now I better do it.
That's right.
And rather than fact, I find it like, it's like writing it down on the whiteboard, right? It's the manifestation. Is when you write it down, when you speak it, it's going to happen, right? But the dreams, man, they come and go nonstop all day long. Right?
Yeah, I call it the entrepreneur's disease. It's a sickness.
It's a sickness. I have actually I have 5 whiteboards in my house that have all different crap all over them, and and then the bar napkins, the doodles, the inventions, the things. They're everywhere in my house. Like,
that's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. And so with me, I go through these different notebooks, electronic notebooks, regular notebook, composition notebook. It's,
I'm going to send you a picture of the one I finally found. I've done the same thing.
Is it remarkable?
It is not remarkable. No, it is. So mine's actually a paper one, but it's a planner.
Okay.
It has it breaks your month, week, year all separately. And then it has monthly reviews of what are your goals for next month, right? What's your review from this? What did you accomplish? All the rest of that. So it really allows you to see.
Takes discipline to stick with it.
It does, but it allows you to see your growth.
Yeah,
and that, man, is because it is. You get in. You got your nose against the grindstone. That grindstone's just spinning, right?
Yeah,
man. You're not seeing how much you're actually building or doing, right? Until you start looking back.
That's a good point, man.
I came from here to here. Like, holy crap! Like, in this last year, We've gone from no boat company to government contracts with a complete 100% U.S. manufactured boat.
Yeah.
And so to when I look back at the growth, holy crap.
Yeah.
But during that time, it just feels like nothing's happening,
It does.
It's a slow crawl, and it's the there's a good analogy. Someone said, I don't know if it was on a clip or what it was, but it was if you go outside and you hit a tree once a day with an axe, that tree will eventually fall.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't go outside and hit the tree with an axe, man, it's just not going to happen at all, right? And so the action is really the only thing that's going to matter.
That's fact.
And how long does it take? I don't know, man. But if you don't take action, then nothing's going to happen.
Yeah,
so.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Okay, so we're climbing out of our first rabbit hole here.
Yeah.
So Panama City, you had this terrible accident.
Yep.
Did that end your career? Were you medically retired?
I was medically retired then. I think that was a huge catalyst for the downward spiral. I was on my way up to Tennessee to go take a spot up there in Millington at
ECM.
No, I was going to be. I was going up there for. It was the recruiter. It was the head, the lead recruiter for special operations.
Okay.
The programs, right?
Right.
I think Bill Nesbitt did it a while back.
Okay.
And that one, promoting EOD basically through Navy recruiting.
Yeah.
Like that. So, but man, I was just at 23 and a little bit, or 23 when I got hit, and man, I still had 6 years ahead of me in my brain, and so my plans changed, and everything was just like crap, and my marriage was failing, and I was in pain. I was going through surgery after surgery, and the military had me on so many drugs.
Yeah.
It was just, they pumped me full of gabapentin and every other painkiller and Neurontin, and it was just horrible, man.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't me. I wasn't me at all for years, and it was 100%. I would attribute that to helping the decline, but really, the major contributor to it was myself.
Yeah.
It was me not being true to me.
Wow.
With me just lying to myself the whole time.
Yes.
That was the major decline of all my marriages, right?
Wow.
I say all my marriages. Right?
How many?
2.
Okay.
2 marriages.
And you're in a third one now?
Correct.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
And super cool wife, Denise.
She's amazing.
Yeah. Totally.
And so I think she's my best friend, man.
Love it.
Yeah, it was very funny. There's the rabbit hole. I almost scrolled out of it, but yeah, she's absolutely my best friend, and I finally did it right. And I think what it was I had given up at a certain point. I was like, I'm just going to be a single dad. I don't need this crap, you know. I just want to live a good, productive life, and I want my kids to, like, what does success look like for me at the end? And man, it's when my kids can just come home and visit me.
How many kids?
Between Denise and I, we have 5.
Okay.
But I have 3.
Okay.
And so, a 8-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 22-year-old.
Wow.
And so, I think when my kids are like, my daughter right now, she's like, Dad, I need a daddy hug. Can I come down for Christmas? I'm like, yep.
Nice.
So when they want to come home, then man, that's success right there. Everything else is just gravy.
And it's a stable home. You're not coming and going, and you know,
perfect.
Yeah.
My kids always know that they will always have a home. No matter what happens in life, they can always fall back on that. I will take care of them.
Yeah.
They're always welcome.
Yeah.
And so I think I've already hit success. You know, like, what else is next? Man, I don't need anything next. I'm a successful man.
Yeah.
And everything else is just kind of a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that, because you are very successful in ECF Gov and what you're doing there. So you transitioned, medically retired, although you were over 20 and
right. Didn't be in a normal retirement. All my stuff was done before I got out.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. I'd have to go through all my VA stuff afterwards.
Okay.
It was all just done prior to.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I retired. I started doing project management for a construction company, and I didn't like it. I was
in Panama City Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one of my buddies' companies, and I was in the box, man. I was working for someone else, telling me what to do outside and putting my happiness behind again. And
got 9 to 5, you know,
it was miserable.
Kind of like clock punching almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wait to become an entrepreneur where I work 26 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so the best thing I did, and I should have done it, and I recommended to all the guys getting out, man, is go find the crappiest job you can and quit a week later.
Yeah.
Because you've never been able to quit anything in your life, in your career, right? You've always been like,
that's right.
You don't quit, right? You keep going. And so,
go find a crappy job and quit a week later.
Tell everyone
like that
at the end of it. And
yeah.
It's the most liberating quitting thing. And when I finally quit being a project manager, I was like, I wish I had done that within the first week. It was the best feeling ever. I was like, I finally stood up for myself that way, right?
How long was that?
It was a year.
Oh, wow.
I spent a year in it, you know, and I just kept getting undercutted. I kept on getting like, you know, I get a call from a client, like, where are the guys at? And then look at the schedule and like, they're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And so then I call up, you know, I call the boss and I told him to go somewhere else. I'm like,
yeah,
well, I'm done, man. Like at this point, our relationship isn't what it needs to be as leadership in this, you know. And then when I tried to sit him down and explain, like, hey, we need to really be on the same page. Like, you and I, like, you're the boss and I'm the project manager, but we have to have a marriage.
Yeah.
And we have to have an open line of communication. We have to tell everything that's on our, you know, like, if you go into
leadership and communication 101.
It's very simple, Rev. And so it was. And we're still great friends, you know. It was, but at that point, I was just like, I'm done. I think that I don't think that I see any growth here for me, and it's time for me to move on. So I had started up a CBD extraction company. My uncle owned one up in Montana.
Okay.
Montana became legal marijuana. He's switching over that, and I was like, I'll jump on some CBD. And so we formed Emerald Kush Farms and started off with 17 products. And we were in a bunch of pharmacies across Florida for a hot minute, and then COVID hit, and people were like, do I put CBD in my body or do I put gas in my car?
Right.
And so we were actually extracting. So we were doing all the business. We were doing straight from. We didn't actually grow the plants. We actually got them from the University of Montana, and extracted in Montana, and then I'd bring the CBD down here and label it and ship it, and so I just 1099 my uncle's employees up there who were he had a chemist and
So did you mainly ship or provide CBD products in the state of Florida? Was that like your licensure? Or?
No, I was nationwide, and so I was able. I kept my whole business vertical, just for that aspect. I didn't open a storefront. We subbed out with a with a friend who had a storefront, who had a boutique, and we subbed out with her for a storefront just so she could sell her product there.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to dump a bunch of money in the storefront because in the South it's still the devil's lettuce. It's still, it's a faux pas. And so I'd noticed that every CBD store that had opened, it really went under. And I didn't want to be in that. So I just kept it all vertical. I kept it online, and then I jumped onto every other pharmacy across. I went and looked up every local pharmacy across the Panhandle and took a drive over 2 weeks and hit every one of them.
Okay.
And literally door knocked and slung my wares and so we were in, I think it was 11 pharmacies total for a hot minute. And then once COVID shut down, and they were like, "Hey, we can't carry your stuff. Stop selling." And but that was pretty much the story across the board for everyone.
For sure.
Did
the laws were the laws favorable? Because they change in every state, every legislative cycle.
It was very frustrating because Florida's got a control on the cannabis. As far as they're still medicinal, but there's only like 3 families and 5 different companies, and it's a $50,000 non-refundable deposit just to even apply for your license, and then you're like 100th in line for marijuana. So it's not very friendly. And then so right now we're kind of just floating it right now. I might shut it down. We're waiting to see if Prop 3 passed in Florida, and it didn't. So that was a recreational marijuana law, and so it didn't pass in Florida. And man, it might just be time to. I'm talking with some other folks about maybe passing it on as a nonprofit to do for veterans, so they can get marijuana out to veterans and stuff like that.
Okay.
We'll address that, but I think it's a good segue for me to appreciate all the lessons I learned off it. What a wonderful business, and I'm really excited about being able to spend the extra time that I used for that towards boats now.
Yeah, cool. Okay, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We are overdue. I'm actually going to probably run 2 or 3 commercial spots because we went long, because it's just a fascinating discussion. And so we will. Nap is a good capitalist. I like to think I'm a good capitalist, and with capitalism in mind, we'll be back in 2 minutes. I want to take a minute to tell you about my book titled Elevate Your Leadership: How to Develop, Maintain, and Advance Lifelong Leadership. This book is based on my 26 years in U.S. Navy Special Operations and now 13 years in the private sector. Leadership is a perishable skill and a personal brand. In Part 1, I guide you through building and applying your personal brand of leadership. Leadership also requires physical energy and mental clarity. In Part 2, I go over the 6 key components of health and wellness and how you can apply these components every single day to become a great leader. This book is also breathable. What does that mean? It's 170 pages, 12-point font, with charts and graphs and pictures to break up the monotony of reading page after page. Finally, this book is available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and of course, RobertPizzini.com. Folks, I want to take a minute and talk about Breeden Construction. Breeden Construction built iFly Virginia Beach 10 years ago, and our building is solid. Why? Building a standard. Our standard is excellence. Visionary thinking, innovative design, dynamic solutions, and transformative growth. While others may see lofty ideals, we see the very foundation needed to construct a better future. This isn't just a promise we make to you, it's the standard we uphold. This is Breeden Construction. Learn more at breedenconstruction.com. Headquartered in Virginia with offices throughout Virginia and North Carolina, you can contact Breeden Construction directly at area code 804-364-4600. Breeden Construction, a national general contractor. And we are back. I'm talking to Napoleon DeChutis, retired U.S. Navy Explosive Ordnance Disposal Master Chief, and entrepreneur. We left off at the end of your CBD adventure, And how did the hydrofoil hulls now? And I have to let me just say this. Knapp was up here with one of his boats about 2 months or so ago. Yep. They called me up and they said, "Hey, you want to come out and get a ride on this new hydrofoil technology?" And as a retired special operator, you offer me a ride on a small tactical boat. I'm in.
Boat rides with the bros.
Boat rides with the bros. Absolutely, man. I'm 100% in. So thanks for that invitation. And the other guys that I saw that you invited as well. But how did you get into that business?
Yeah. So it was funny. After I decided I didn't want to do project management anymore, I still had the skill set, right? And so I never want to throw that out. We were doing the CBD company, and I decided I was going to start doing real estate. I had a buddy show up out of Colorado. He was a ex-Navy CB, and he just got his GC in Florida. And he goes, "Do you want to start building?" And I said, "Yeah, I do want to start building." So we scooped up some land, started throwing down some houses, and I found that not only my GC was so meticulous with, I found the right person, right?
The right general contractor.
Right GC. He was so meticulous with his timing, right? And then I basically just pay him a flat fee per house to manage the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And then I pay the subs personally, and he'll call me up the day before and say, "Hey, the guys are getting ready to close up the job," and I'll show up on the driveway with a check, and I hand it right to the sub. So then that way they can go home and show mama they got paid and they're happy, and they'll show up on Monday again.
Yeah.
And just taking care of the guys that way, taking care of the people that take care of you, right?
Right.
We're throwing a house up probably once every 8 weeks right now.
Wow, no kidding. In and around Panama City Beach? Yep. Okay.
And
anything on the other side of the bridge in Panama City proper?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm not on the beach. I'm actually over in Callaway area right now.
Oh,
I've got 9 houses on one division going up over there, just north of Tyndall, Air Base, and then another 15 on another division going up there.
Wow. So just north of Tyndall Air Force Base.
Yep.
That's cool. And are they all pre-sold?
No, not yet. I'm waiting on City of Callaway to hit the stamp of approval on my on the one set of plans, and then I can start clearing. But
wow,
they will. There's 10,000 airmen showing up to Tyndall. There's new drone squadron showing up. So
wow.
10,000 total people with families, contractors, and all that stuff, right? And so, and there's actually a development going up right across the street from my other development down there, and I'm going to wait till those guys finish building, and they can boost the price up a little bit, and then I'll jump on.
Wow,
what their last price was.
Wow. So how many houses have you built, or
I've got 5 that I've built so far since I've retired, and then this will be the first big development.
Okay,
I guess 9 development at once, and so but yeah, it just took a little bit of time to raise the capital to be able to go and do the groundwork and all the rest of that.
Yeah, right. Right.
Another thing I did was I teamed up with my bank vice president, right, and brought her in on a deal. So now I have to get loans.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you brought in the right person. I can tell you that.
Right.
So way to go there.
Is very and then as a project manager, I'd known all my suppliers, right, in Bay County, and so. I'm sorry if you guys are listening. I was able to squeeze them against each other.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Where I'm like, hey,
it's got to take advantage, man. That's what we do.
Great. And so we're building right now a little over $100 a square foot, which is amazing.
Holy cow, that is
every 8 weeks, and then
wow, like what, 3,000 square foot, 2,500?
No, I'm building little 1,600 square foot.
Okay,
3 2-spec homes.
Okay,
they're great.
Wow,
no garage. No one uses a garage in Florida, man. They fill it full of crap and parked cars.
Same thing here. Mine's converted.
Yeah, that's where I was like, for what it's cost me to put the cement and the building in for a garage, it wasn't worth the money.
Yeah,
for what it's worth, for the house. So I basically squeezed my ROI down to the point where I'm making my max ROI, and it's over 50% right now.
Wow. Okay, so CBD, ECF, Gov, which is hydrofoil boat, and then you got the housing thing going on. But once again, how did you get into the boats?
Housing was going great. Everything. So I'm like, you know what? I told Denise, let's go down and manifest a Baron yacht. If you look up Baron yachts, there's on my hat. They are such an amazing boat, man. They're Class A long distance trawler. They start at 65 foot and go up. They build mega yachts, and
Out of Fort Lauderdale? Or?
they actually build them out of Turkey, of Antalya, Turkey.
No kidding.
Is where they're out of. And so I went down to the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show, and the tender we took out to view one of these yachts was the best riding rigid hull inflatable boat I've ever been on.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what is this witchcraft, man? And I started sniffing around. Denise tells the story better. She goes, oh, he starts sniffing around the boat, and we're all sitting here. And so we got out to this mega yacht. It was like a 92 foot. It's called the Papillon, if you look it up. It's gorgeous. It's a charter boat. And
Did you bring that home too?
I wish, man. So I wish. We toured a little bit of it, and then I sat in the cockpit back in the aft portion with this guy and talked about the rib we just took out for about 2 hours. And I knew EOD needed boats, and so on the way back, man, I was like, I gotta get the boat to the boys, and so I just started calling everyone I knew, and then we started linking up, and it started gaining traction, and pretty soon, Baring, I was in contact with a guy, Chris Caprio, who is an amazing partner, man.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned so much just in a short period of time from business from him, and he used to be vice president of Ashley Home Stores. So
wow.
The spotlight he has on the business path is amazing. It's so bright.
Yeah,
and I know boats, and so the team that we built was amazing. So we came together, and we actually have just started building. What's today? Saturday, Friday. We just started our new mold down in Stuart, Florida. So
okay,
we're now 100% U.S. built.
Okay,
but yeah, we formed the company. Oh man, I said I would reach back to my first ship with Cam and Darcy Neville, my friends that I met on there, right? And so Cam had gone to Dam Neck. He'd gone out to Devgert for years, man. Disappeared basically, right? Like everyone else does out there, right? Disappeared, and then all of a sudden they show up, and
is he a SEAL?
He was IDC corpsman.
Okay,
yeah, IDC DMT tech,
yeah.
And so I had Darcy had gotten out after our first tour, after the Hewitt decommissioned in 2001, and she had gotten out and she started doing government sales, and I was like, I need a government salesperson, and so she'd been working for Blackhawk. She was an Eastern distributor for Blackhawk, or Eastern sales rep for Blackhawk for years, and a whole bunch of other companies. I think it wasn't SIG, but it was one of the other gun manufacturers. She was also, and so it's funny when you go in their house. It's all she grew up in Minnesota, actually, and Cam grew up in South Florida. But when you go in their house, it's just like there's there's deer mounts and bear mounts.
Yeah,
Cam hasn't shot.
This is husband and wife.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, and Cam hasn't shot one of them. It's all Darcy.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I was like, I need a director of sales. I need someone who knows government sales, and Darcy was it. So I was able to pull her into the company too. And right now, man, it's been a lot of sweat equity, you know what I mean? But since we started, we have the Air Force is buying our boats. We have some treasure hunters. Just picked up 25 of them.
Wow. Where are they hunting treasure?
I can't say, but basically they're using the boats. They're throwing AI tech into it, and they're just going to burn squares. I think what they're doing is dragging sonar behind it, side scan sonar.
Yeah,
and then just sending it out to just go map the whole ocean floor.
Yeah, I'm telling you what, it's that was coming for a long time, and I wish I was part of that in some capacity.
They actually, if you Google the latest treasure found, those are those guys.
Okay,
and so they've they got stupid money.
Yeah,
they're like, 25 boats, please.
Yeah, wow, well done, man.
Yeah, and so
awesome, dude.
it's slowly growing, man. We've got some lobbyist groups looking at us. We've got we're supporting SpaceX capsule recovery right now through a company called Operator Solutions who asked us to help out a couple.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them actually.
Yeah.
A lot of Air Force guys, right?
It's all, and it's the niche of their company is that they use all guard and reservist guys.
Yeah,
and so that way they're all fresh up on the jump calls.
Exactly,
you're all good to go, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think they had a couple people come up to iFly and
great company, man.
Yeah,
and they actually have a civilian C-130. And if that space capsule goes off course, they chase it down, jump out the back with inflatable hospital, jet skis, everything.
It's incredible, man.
Chase that capsule down.
That's incredible, dude. I'd love to jump out of a C-130 again. That is the best platform to jump out of.
I would too. And my neurosurgeon after the surgeries, he was like, "You will never jump again."
Yeah.
So I was like,
"Yeah." I quit jumping about a year and a half ago. So
you don't have to here, right?
Yeah, no, that's true.
You get to fly whenever you want. Man.
My back just can't take that opening shock.
And it was the opening. It broke me, man. And but yeah, and thank you yesterday for letting me fly, man. I was complete sky trash. I don't know if you watched me, but
I did.
Yeah, Denise showed me.
Yeah,
big time.
You look good. No, and Denise. So just for the listeners, so Knapp and his wife Denise flew yesterday at iFly Virginia Beach, and Knapp's flown before. He kind of knows what he's doing, but his wife, it was her first time in a indoor skydiving facility, and she, like most women, women pay attention in the classroom, men don't. So women usually get in there and they're relaxed and they have great body position and they have this natural arch that's better than men anyway. And they do really well and they smile the whole time. And Denise was like smiling / laughing.
Yes, she was literally roaring with laughter the whole time. It was so fun for her. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Thanks for bringing that up. So that's so much fun.
Yeah. So no, and that's where we're at, man. We're really we're excited about the future with the boats. We're talking with so many amazing people who want to get involved with it, and also just man, and so with our company, the main focus of our company is number one is we need to get a good boat to the guys, mm-hmm. man. After years of just getting the crap beat out of us, right? To be able to have a boat that reduces the shock force to personnel right off the bat is amazing. Mm-hmm. And then our second goal with the company is to feed the Naval Special Operations Foundation and EOD Warrior Foundation.
It's awesome.
As end user support. And if your husband's on deployment and your car craps the bed, right? I can send an Uber to your house and go take you to your new car.
Yeah.
Well, not new car. I'll pay for an almost new car because the appreciation is just...
Yeah. That's the whole premise. I was in with the ground floor of NSOF, and that's the whole premise is, and that's why we needed to localize it to where the operators are, because the operators, even though we're home ported here, the operators are gone all the time. And when the fence blows down or the car or whatever,
I want to be able to take care of them, man. My bros who aren't here anymore, I want to take care of their kids. Yeah. I want to set up a foundation for each one of those kids, man, because their daddy paid the ultimate sacrifice already, And so if I can set up a foundation for those kids each, so the majority of our boat sales, that's not going back into our company. Then go to our charity. And Chris has an amazing charity right now. It's called It Is Finished .faith, and it's an absolutely amazing charity. But we're going to start up another one here very soon with the goal of being direct end user support for Special Operations Foundations.
That's cool. Cool. Knapp, what a fascinating discussion, man, and just kind of a couple of teammates, couple old sailors catching up with each other,
man. Yeah, and we didn't even jump in the bourbon either, right?
Yeah. Just nope, not yet. So but what a fascinating discussion, and there's so much going on, and we've kept in touch, and we're going to keep in touch, and I can't wait for Julie and I to come down and hang out with
man, we can't
Florida. Either, yeah. So that day's coming very soon. And I'm going to ask you one last question. This is probably the most important topic we're going to talk about during this entire discussion, and it's all about pizza dough.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I've got that for you, man.
So you showed me. I'm a pizza maker, So Pizzini, right? DeChutis, right? So Napoleon. I mean, so it's in our DNA, like EOD is. Yeah. So what is your recommendation for the absolute best pizza dough?
I use
homemade, obviously.
Yeah, no. I use double O flour
for sure,
and then I filter water. I use filter water or mineral water.
Okay.
Because you have to replicate New York's water.
Yeah.
And if you ever woken up hungover on a Secret Service job in New York City, man, and you forget water, you're like, oh, I got to drink out of the hotel tap. And then you start drinking out of the hotel tap. You're like, holy crap, it's really good.
Yeah.
And you continue, and you're like, I don't need to buy water in New York at all, right?
You and General Assembly.
Yeah, no. So the water up there is amazing. So that's the secret, right? Now, and I think once you replicate that, then it's good. And I'll give you my dough recipe, man. I let it rise for 3 days, and that's it.
Yeah,
as hard as it gets.
Yeah. Okay, so dough box in the fridge.
That's it.
Yeah, that's good stuff, dude. So all right, well, I'm making 2 of them tonight.
I love it.
Feeding some kids in the neighborhood.
You had a leadership question, right? We wanted to talk about.
Yeah, well, there's 2 things there. So the pizza dough was the most important. 2 final questions.
Yeah.
One is getting back to really the nature of this podcast, which is elevate your leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a question I ask everybody who's on the podcast, and that is, how do you define the word leadership?
Mm-hmm. Wow, man. That's tough to define it, right? So,
or apply it.
Yeah, I think
Principle of leadership.
I think it's man. I said it earlier on. Is when your kids come home and visit you, you're successful as a dad, right? I think when you've called up, I guarantee you've called up someone in your career, your C daddy, right, and said, "Thank you for your leadership, man. I just want to call and say thank you for everything you've given me."
100%. I still do it.
Right, and so that's successful leadership. I guarantee you there's a bunch of guys that you don't call up as well, right? And so, but you needed those leaders to show you what not to do, right?
That's true.
And so because you wouldn't have the balance, you wouldn't have the yin and yang or the opposition to look at.
That's
so
right.
How do I define leadership, man? I think that it's the process of.
I mean, you got a bachelor's degree in it,
right? No. But that's funny is they don't actually ask you that, right? There's a bunch of things of how to lead and what to do, but what is actual leadership, man? Personally, like I can spit out a Webster's dictionary.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I think effective leadership, man, is giving yourself to show other people that it's okay for them to follow with you.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has. I have a personal definition. When I do my events here, my Elevate Your Leadership, the 1-day event in iFly, Virginia Beach.
How do you define it?
That's so my short definition is 2 words.
Yeah.
Enabling others.
Yeah.
Right. And then the longer version is I use my education, my training, and my experience to enable others to accomplish their objectives.
Yeah.
Right. And so their objectives inside my company are shared objectives, ROI, but people have objectives outside of, their workplace proper.
Yeah.
And we have to help develop people to pursue their dreams, to develop dreams and pursue them. And
I think another thing too on the leadership aspect, and you kind of touched on there, was the is aligning the people with your mission, right? And so if you are in an organization, you have a goal. If the people that are working with you in that organization don't have the same goal, you're never going to reach it, right? And so if you can't align your people to believe in what you believe, then those are the wrong people, man.
Yeah.
Or you're the wrong leader.
Yeah, that's
one of the two.
And that's vision. So, there's leadership styles and power types, but of all the, you can read books or Google it, it'll say the 3 most important, the 8 most important, the 12 most important leadership styles. Whether you pick 3, 8, or 12, I pick 3 personally.
Yeah.
And the first one is visionary, right? You have got to your point, you've got to put a vision out there.
100%.
And that vision is a North Star, right? It's the cardinal direction. And it's not a one and done. You have to repeat and refine and reinforce that vision almost on a daily basis.
Correct.
And I've got 40 people in this company, from Mr. going to be 59 in a couple days, me.
Easy, right?
Crazy, to I got kids who are high school or, 17, 18, 19 years old. And so you've got to navigate all those different levels of experience and education.
Each one requires a different way to lead.
Yeah, exactly
because
right.
That 18-year-old kid identifies completely different than the 32-year-old that's working down there.
Exactly right, which is different than the 45 or the 50-year-old.
100%. You can't be the way we grew up, right? Was like just shut up and do it, right? And the way you can't do that now. The kids nowadays are too smart, man.
Yeah,
they're not like, okay, I'll just blindly obedient, right? Now you have to say, I need you to do this, and this is why, because it's going to help you do this, and it's going to help me do this as well. And then now, it also aligns with my mission statement. They're like, now I see the whole picture. Like, and that's what kids nowadays want.
Yeah, they do want it for sure.
To be fair, like, I think we could have used it back then.
Oh, I wish, man. I go back to the early days of my career, and I wish we would have had that.
Right.
Because it just fills in. It gives you the complete picture, like you said, and really, really accelerates your sense of purpose.
I would have had way more buy-in on, I'd say, 99% of the stuff I did. If someone had been like, this is the whole picture, right? And it's like when you're in the truck, right? And you got a problem downrange, and you go around to every single person in the truck, man. I used to do that all the time as the tactical controller in the truck. I would go to my driver and say, what do you think we should do?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go to the robot driver, what do you think you should do? Go to the gunner, if we had a gunner at that point, what do you think we should do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And everyone gets to say something. Then it's ultimately my decision, right? But I want everyone to feel like they're included in this life or death matter, right? I'm like, just watch me do this crap. And these guys are like, what the hell?
Yeah. I call that voice versus vote, right? Everybody has a voice.
Always.
But we're not taking a vote on what we're going to do. You get input from everybody, and the leader's the decision maker.
100%.
So
the junior guy comes up with a great idea all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hey, I think
building,
we should do this. That's awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. We are doing that.
Happens in this building almost every day.
I love it.
So
empowering your people to
exactly. So you really got to focus on that. Yeah. So and my definition of the word leadership has changed over the years.
Right.
And when I run the full day Elevate Your Leadership at iFly Virginia Beach in our conference room here, that's one of our assignments is, I go over these various definitions. JFK discusses it and John Maxwell and, and then we have one of our exercises where, okay, let's take 10 minutes where you develop, you develop your own personal working definition of that word, which can change.
Right.
So, all right, cool. And then really, and this is the final question, but it doesn't mean that we're done because I've asked this last question many times, and then we go on for another 20 or 30 minutes.
I'm good with that.
But the question is quite simply, what haven't we talked about? What haven't I asked you? What do you think would be of value to our listeners? And our listeners range from military people to private sector people to CEOs, owners, founders, people who are looking for lessons in leadership.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I think... What was your biggest failure in leadership?
Man. Well, I write about it in my book. And it's the Spirit Gun story down in Panama City when I was an instructor down there.
Yeah.
I was the highest ranked chief at dive school and in charge of 30 students going out and doing a final certification. Yeah. 2 craft, small tactical craft, and one of the YDTs. It's called a yard diving tender, about a I think those are 60 or 70 foot vessels.
Yeah.
And without getting into the details, the commanding officer put down a directive that changed the way we're going to do things. Mm-hmm. And I was all loaded up, geared, ready to go do it the way we've always done it. And at that moment, I got the message from a messenger that, hey, the commanding officer said, we're not doing that anymore. And I looked at my team, my cadre, and I said, starting tomorrow, we're not going to do that anymore.
Right.
And I paid dearly for that.
Yeah.
But here's the lesson.
Yeah.
My career could have ended that day.
Right.
And I write about this in detail in the book. My career could have ended, but that leader, that commanding officer recognized that I was not an egocentric guy.
Right.
No, I was on that day, but that wasn't the nature of my character.
Right.
And he said, I'm going to make it painful on you. And it's up to you if you want to recover from this.
Right.
Not up to me. It's up to you. And he took some action, and I had to recover from that, And
I love that.
Yeah. But here's the deal. Buy-in, right? I had to be bought in to the mission of the organization, which Navy dive school instructor, man. I mean, there's no better.
Right.
Holy cow. You're training the next generation.
Meat eaters, man.
Yeah. I mean, God, that was a dream to have that tour. So totally bought into the mission. And then the next part of that was, when I complied, when I said, okay, we're going to obey that tomorrow, that's not 100% compliance. That's like 50%, or it's not 100%. But the point is, when you're bought into the mission of the organization, you comply with your leadership 100%. There's nothing in between 100% and zero that's acceptable.
Right.
Right.
Great.
And I was doing something in between on that day.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if that person on your team that you're in charge of screws something up and they're bought into the mission and they own their shortcoming, put them on a path for recovery.
Agreed.
And that's what he did with me. I owned it,
Yeah.
after a long, painful period, he called me into his office and he said, "What's my number one ranked chief doing sitting here in front of me for violating a directive?" And I was like, if I could go back and have that day over again, it would be completely different.
Right.
Like, I own it. I am so sorry, personally and professionally. Whatever you have to do,
Right.
I have to accept it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think mine was very similar. It was an ego thing, right? And it was we were in Iraq. We were exhausted by this point, and there was a huge dump truck on the side of the road that the security element on scene watched this dump truck stop. 2 guys jumped out, jumped in a car, took off. Iraqi police caught the guys down the road, brought them back, and security told them to go down, and they said they didn't want to go near the truck, right? And so at that point, they called us out. And so we were like, it's a full-up dump truck with dirt, like, over the top. And we're like, they have everything buried in here, right?
mm-hmm.
And so we were sitting out there, and we're like, how do we get in this truck? Because I'm like, we're just all dead sitting here, right? It was a big old V-bid is really what,
For sure.
Born ID.
Yeah.
And there's a helicopter came in, White Wolf, and he goes, "Hey, do you need help?" I said, "Yeah, I do." I was like, "I'd like you to throw 2 Hellfires in the side of this dump truck, man, and if there's anything in there, it'll at least go."
For sure.
And that way I know that I can, whatever.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden the landowner came over the comms and was like, "Disregard that order, White Wolf." And I'm like, "Who the heck is this?" And they're like, "This is whatever talk 2-3 or whatever."
Yeah,
whatever talk was right at that point. I can't remember this.
So the geographic commander, whoever
The geographic commander came over, and he's in a building 15 miles away from me, not on scene, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Hey, have you done this?" I said, "Who is this?" And they said, "Well, this is the talk. We're not shooting missiles." I was like, "Well, I'm the on-scene commander here," and they're like, "Well, this is Liberty, whatever it was." 3, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, and they go, "Well, what else can you do out there besides these missiles?" They asked me that over the thing, and I'm like, I thought I was taking crazy pills, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, you can get everyone from it's loyalty. That's what it is. I was like, you can get everyone from Loyalty Talk out here with an effing shovel and dig this thing out for me. And I said that over the comms, and they're like, "This is Loyalty Talk out." I was like, "You don't help me." I started transmission, right? And then I was like, "Well, what do we do, man?" We shot out the tires so we get the robot in, right? And the robot wasn't tall enough to look inside, and so we shot out the tires to lower this dump truck. It was a straight cab over truck.
Mm-hmm.
Shot out the tires, opened up the door. I got the robot in there to look around. We saw a bunch of wires. We saw an AK in there, and so we were like, "We'll blow the cab."
Mm-hmm.
And so we put a satchel underneath the cab and just made it go away. The cab, and then when we went up there, we found the AK-47. We found a project box. All the rest of that. I climbed to the back of the truck because the bomb suit walks like useless at that point.
Yeah.
We can't climb in the back of a truck in a bomb suit, nor is going to save you if that truck's full. So I told the guys just to videotape me, and if I went up to get the video back to everyone else, right? And so I crawled to the back of the truck and swept it as deep as I could by hand, and then cleared the whole thing and came back. And I was so mad, man. This is where my failure was. I drove after the incident. I drove back to Loyalty Talk, and instead of going to the EOD compound, I told my driver, I said, "Go to Loyalty Talk. Well, it's cheap. I don't think we should do that." And I said, "Fucking drive to Loyalty Talk right now."
Yeah.
And I got out. I walked in. I started screaming at the guy in charge, and I said, "Do you know what it feels like to have you guys driving my scenario 15 miles away? Well, I don't know if I'm going to see my family again." I was like, "Who the F is right?" And so the major's like, "Get that chief in here now." And he goes, "Chief, what the F?" I was like, "You, sir." Like, I was so mad, right? And he goes, "Get him out of here." And so they drugged me out. My security details drugged me out by my arms as I was kicking every private computer, anything I could find.
Wow.
And I was like, F you guys. I was so mad at that point, man.
Yeah.
But I was battle fucking exhausted.
Oh, hell
I
yeah.
was so tired. And I was so tired of not getting help, And so at that point, I'd lost it. And I went back and Commander Matt Coombs now, man, but he was Lieutenant Matt Coombs back then. I said, Matt, you're not going to believe what I just did, and I apologize. And he turned white as a sheet of paper, man. He goes, you did not do that. I said, I did. And so he went and cleaned up my whole fucking mess, man. Drug me back down there, and I made up with the major. And I said, he goes, well, those Hellfires are 150 or 250 a piece, right? And I said, what am I worth to you?
No shit.
That's what I said to him directly. I said, what am I worth to you? Because and he goes, well, we don't think about it like that in the Army. I was like, I'm your only EOD chief on this freaking base, man. I was like, and the 3 guys in that truck was half your EOD team on this base. I was like, so we go up, man. Now what?
Yeah.
Like, is it not worth $500,000 to freaking make sure we're alive for you? And he goes, it absolutely is. And we made up, man. But it was a huge failure in my leadership, man. I showed my ass completely. I was unprofessional, and I put my lieutenant in the situation of, you had to go clean up my crap. Like, that's not what I'm supposed to do as a senior enlisted guy, right? I'm supposed to be cleaning up lieutenant's crap, right? I'm supposed to be helping him out, right? Not causing problems for him. And so, but it was, man, I wrote this down while we were talking about it because both of our failures was an ego problem, right? Mm-hmm. And when you go back to leadership, and this might be the helpful thing for everyone here, right? Mm-hmm. Is that when you go back to leadership, not just ours, history's leadership, all the failures of history, good and bad leaders, man, freaking from Julius Caesar to Hitler, right? Mm-hmm. Ego made them all fall. Mm-hmm. They got to a point, and it was the Peter principle, right? It was the part where they were elevated to the point of success by the people who brought them there, and when they forgot about the people who brought them there, those people back out, and you fall from success.
Yeah,
and fall from grace, man.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing is that
thinking Joe Biden right now.
Well, I don't. The caveat, I don't get political, right?
Yeah.
I lose half my customer base if I get political.
Yeah,
I love it all.
Yeah.
But man, when you look at when you look at the egocentric stuff, right? You do, man. When you forget about taking care of the people who take care of you,
for sure,
you will not be a leader anymore.
Yeah,
and that might just be like the best part, right? Is that the biggest secret to freaking leadership that I've found is always just taking care of my people.
For sure, for sure.
The easiest thing.
You have to know ultimately that you work for them. You work for them. They can get you fired. We've seen it in the military.
And it happens in business. If you don't take care of those people, your business will fail.
That's a fact.
And they will fire you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What an awesome way to end the discussion, man.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. It was a great end cap.
Yeah. Super fun, man. Super fun. What incredible experiences that you have, that you've shared with me and with our listeners. And I know you got some other stuff going on this weekend. So, brother, thank you so much for coming.
Bro, I appreciate it, man. Much love. I appreciate your leadership, man. I appreciate, thank you for letting me, Denise, and I come do a little fly, get a little airtime, man. It was amazing. And, I appreciate your friendship, Bob. And, I look forward to a long working relationship with you as well as a brotherhood. Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Elevate Your Leadership podcast. To contact Bob directly or to learn more about how Bob can advance you and your organization through leadership training, team building, executive coaching, and public speaking, visit robertpizzini.com. Robert, Pizzini.com, and connect with him on LinkedIn.